The United States has over 8,800 financial institutions, aka banks. It's a bank's world. We're just living in it. Shrek. It's brother, Carl. Not only are there a bunch of different banks, but there's also a bunch of different bank types, each having their own pros and cons. As in, can you stop f***ing with the economy for 1 second, Jerome? I'm trying to make a video over here. Banks are good at two things: making money and making you feel like shit because you forgot your 64-digit account number. No, I haven't filled out a deposit slip. Do I look like I work here? I'm not even wearing shoes. Banks can literally create money that can never be paid back because it doesn't even exist. So I made a PowerPoint to dive into the United States banking system and find out what's really going on here. You little gooselet? Get out of here. First, you need to understand the basic roles a bank can have. There's central banking, retail banking, commercial banking, and investment banking. If you think this will get complicated, don't worry, it will, but let's just simplify it for a second here. Think of central as working with the government and other banks. Think of retail as working with you slouching piece of shit. Come on, sit up straight. Think of commercial as working with the biz, and this says businesses. And think of investment banking as not part of this video because it'd just be too complicated to explain. Just look it up if you really want to. Moving on. And there's different types of banks. There's national banks, community banks, state banks, credit unions, and a few other ones which are gonna bunch up right here and just shove out of this video. We're not gonna talk about them. Most countries have a national bank that acts as a central bank and provides services to the government and other banks. However, the United States called and they said, nah, boy. Instead, there's one central bank called the Fed, as in f***ing in charge, don't call me Jerome, that's Mr. Powell to you, aka the Federal Reserve System. Its goal is to keep the financial system healthy by all means necessary. I think they recently started a no-carb diet. They seem to be getting some pretty good results so far, but we'll see. It's important to understand that the Fed is not part of the United States government, and it's the only entity that can actually pump real money into the ecosystem. I mean, economy. And then there's not one national bank, not two national banks, but there's actually a shitload of them, 761. National banks, aka the big boys, tend to be available all over the country, have modern waiting rooms, and have the best credit cards. But they have the worst returns for savings accounts and fees, baby. They got lots of fees. Community banks are like mini national banks. They tend to operate on a local level, but not always. And tend to have better returns for savings accounts, less fees, and fast lending decisions based on relationships. But there's a cute little but here. They don't usually operate in other states. Their online experience is like kind of mediocre and don't offer a lot of options in terms of loans and credit cards. State banks and credit unions are similar in that they're both non-profit, meaning they have the best loan rates and the highest returns for savings accounts and have the least amount of fees. But their online experiences tend to be the worst, waiting rooms aren't very jazzy, and they can be pretty slow. In general, Grievous, for savings and checking accounts, you want something with very low fees and high savings returns. So the best options are usually credit unions or online banks, which are national banks without all the bullshit fees. Or if you're a fancy little thing, you can use both. Have two accounts. That way you get the best of both worlds. Online banks tend to have the best online experience, duh. And credit unions give you the ability to build a close relationship with a local lender. And trust me, buddy, you're gonna want that. Because credit unions are also the best for auto loans and mortgages. And I'm sorry I called you buddy. However, national banks tend to have the most riz when it comes to credit cards. Yeah, are you from Tennessee? Because I'm a fucking credit card. Do you know what rhymes with credit card? Fractional reserve banking. What's that, you say? What, you don't care? I'm an idiot? What do you mean you're taking my lunch money? Fractional reserve banking is how modern banks operate. It's pretty easy to understand the basic idea of how it works, but it's fairly complicated in reality. Here's a little illustration. Goofus number one gets $100 and he wants to keep it secure, but he doesn't have a safe or a house or anything like that because, you know, he's a fucking drawing and is not real. So he goes to Bank of America, slams the $100 on the counter and says, keep her running, will ya? Bank of America says, gladly. Next! Goofus number two is next in line. Bank of America throws $10 in the back and gives $90 to the next person in line. Goofus number two. Goofus number 2 goes, but I only need 80. Bank says, take it and get the f out of my face. Goofus number 2 takes the money and sprints out the door. Later that evening, he buys a Tai Lopez How to Be a Trillionaire course, or some like that. So now there's $190 circulating in the system. Tai Lopez takes the money and goes to Bank of America. Bank of America says, Tai, what are you doing here? We don't want your goddamn personality tests. Tai goes, here in my local bank, just got this $80 here. Who are you talking to? Save up. You're the only one here. Knowledge. And so the cycle repeats many times. After a few cycles, even Goofus number 2 over here, that f***ing idiot, can realize that there's more money circulating in the system than there was initially put into the system. And it gets worse. When Bank of America first took money from Goofus number 1, they offered to pay a small return, say 1%. But there's only $100 of real money. And doing some quick mental math, 1% of $100 is $1. But the bank can't create new money. Where are they gonna get the dollar? Huh? Well, they're gonna charge Goofus number 2, but not just 1%, because the bank has bills to pay and pizza parties to throw. They're gonna give Goofus number 2 a rate of like 5%. But a typical Goofus can't create money either, so how will this debt ever get paid off? Well, it can't. I know. Spooky. For example, the total money supply in existence, also called M2, is about $20.5 trillion. And the personal debt alone is over $25 trillion. So if everyone all of a sudden paid off their auto loans, mortgages, and credit cards, there just wouldn't be enough money in existence to pay it all off. Then add in the national debt, state debt, local debt, business debt, and you get what we like to call the dog won't hunt, sweetie, he's too busy underwriting mortgages. I do declare. Now, of course, everyone paying off their personal debt all at once is pretty much an impossibility, and I don't even want to get into business debt or government debt. Besides the fear of the entire economical ecosystem collapsing, fractional reserve banking does have a lot of benefits. It allows banks the ability to lend out money to people who want to buy a house or start a business. Without a mortgage, it would take way too long for Goofus number 2 over here, that f***ing idiot, to be able to buy a house. By giving business loans, you help grow the economy by creating more services that are available to the public, like massage therapy, pet grooming, and AI chatbots. Speak to a representative. I want to speak to a real person. Your AI chatbot is like what you pick up on the street. Trash. It's a trash company. They pick up trash. Fractional reserve banking also gives banks the ability to pay interest to Goofus number 1, or money that is deposited to them, which could help some people keep up with inflation. It's also important to point out that most banks are insured with the FDIC, so every person can keep up to $250,000 in the bank without worry. This prevents bank runs from happening, which is like when everyone waddles in the bank and goes, "It's my money and I need it now!" But the bank does not have enough in the caboose. In this video, my intention was not to scare gamers from using banks. Sorry, honey, I like to keep my money in the attic. No, in fact, quite the opposite. Wealth is created with debt, and you as an American passport holder have the ability to use the banks as a tool to leverage debt to buy real estate or start a business, and over time, become a wealthy little peanut boy. Okay, that's it. If you like what you saw, like and subscribe.
The rat goes like this, like this, like this. You are now a normal rat.